we won't need more than one take.
I just...
No, we're gold. Kia ora team, my name's Ben and this is Ebola. And we're going to talk about the different characteristics of vertebra. Alright, so the first one we're going to have a look at is this one here. And when we look at it, we see this bulge here is kind of small. What's this called?
The body.
The body. The body is also known as the
Centrum.
good man. And the body's job in a vertebra is to
Bear the weight.
bear the weight. So if I've got a small body, what part of the vertebra do you think I would be?
The cervical.
Good. Cervical region, because it's only got the weight of the head. Then, as we go further down to the
Ribs. Thoracic.
thoracic region, the body is
Medium.
medium-sized. And as we get right to the bottom in
Lumbar.
the body is
Large.
gorgeous. So just from looking at the body of the vertebra, we can tell which region it's from. The next thing we look at is there's a big hole in the middle. A hole in anatomy is called a
Foramen.
foramen. And this foramen is in the middle of the vertebra, so let's call it
Vertebral foramen.
vertebral foramen. Awesome. Okay. What goes through the vertebral foramen?
Your spinal cord.
Spinal cord. So the spinal cord is all the information coming down from the brain. So once we go down, information leaves the spinal cord. So it leaves to go to the shoulder, leaves to go to the elbow, leaves to go to the wrist. As information leaves the spinal cord gets
Smaller.
good. So the vertebral foramen will also get
Smaller.
good. So if we look, here's the biggest vertebral foramen, so it must be in the
Cervical
region.
region.
Good man.
Cervical.
Then as it gets slightly smaller, we go down to the,
Thoracic.
and then it's narrowest in the,
Lumbar.
because most of the information has already left the spinal cord. This guy. Okay, special things that this one has that they don't is we got these extra holes. So what are holes?
Foramen.
And these foramen are in the,
Transverse plane.
yep, they're in the transverse plane. And whenever we see something poke out, it's called a process. So these things poking out along the transverse plane are called
Transverse process.
good, transverse processes. So now we've got a foramen in this transverse process, so let's call it a
Transverse foramen.
boom. So the only region that has transverse foramen is the
Cervical region.
good, because those are little holes where the vertebra basilar artery goes through. So the vertebra basilar artery is protected around that bony casing. In the thoracic and lumbar, we've got other things that can protect arteries, like the
Ribs.
or
Poku.
gorgeous.
No.
Okay. Then, if we look at this bad boy, each of the vertebra have, so up means
Superior.
superior, to touch,
Articulating
articular, and then pokey out.
process.
Good. So each vertebra has two superior articulating processes where the other vertebra sits on top and touches. But then this one here has got an extra set on the body and an extra set on the transverse process. So what are they for?
Bearing the rib.
The ribs.
Ribs.
What's a more scucks way of saying ribs? So we've got cartilage here and it's called
Costal.
costal. Good. So costal cartilage, rib cartilage. So these facet joints are for the ribs, so let's call them
Costal facets.
good. Costal facets. Okay, so I know this is a lumbar vertebra because it doesn't have
Facets.
for the ribs, which are
Costal.
facets.
Yep.
And I know this is lumbar because it doesn't have,
Foramens. Transverse foramens.
which is only in the cervical.
Yep.
Alright, boom!